because local jurisdictions can actually start reforming bail now. You don't really need an act of Congress to start doing it, and so hopefully we can start seeing some local folks go forward. I also want to thank the institutions that made today possible, UCLA, as well as the UCLA Law School, Brave New Films, and then my amazing staff. We have Lisa and Ashley and Wes, plus 3 interns here, Jared, Jordan, and Talha, and want to know that Jared and Jordan are currently at UCLA undergrad. I love UCLA. I did my, as Sharon said, my swearing in here, and it's a fabulous institution. And then we've just been joined by someone working on the bail issue at the state level, State Senator Bob Hertzberg. Thanks so much for joining us. So I'm going to talk about how it is I came to introduce this bill, the status of it, and sort of how we go forward. So before Congress, I didn't walk around thinking about bail. And I can guarantee you most members of Congress do not think about bail. It's one reason I introduced this legislation, is to get people to start thinking about this issue. The reason that I even know about it is because one of my constituents came to my office and said, hey, look at this issue. There's some profound unfairness going on. And we looked at it and we thought, is it really true that there's 450,000 people sitting in jails and prisons that haven't been convicted of a single thing? And yes, that is true. And is it true that we're wasting all these resources housing these people that haven't been convicted of anything? And yes, that is true. And is it true that it's essentially criminalizing the poor? And I think the studies will show that. And so I introduced this legislation because Dorothy Wright, one of my constituents, she's here today, thank you for being here, brought this issue to me. I'm a veteran, former military prosecutor, and public safety is one of my top priorities, which is why I support bail reform. Because the current system is not rational. The current system makes this very strange linkage that says how dangerous you are depends partly on how much cash on hand you have. Right? That makes no sense. Other jurisdictions have looked at this, Washington, D.C., Kentucky, they've gone to a risk assessment system where basically they'll say, all right, we don't care if you're a millionaire. If we think you're dangerous, we're just not going to let you go. Or if we think you're going to flee because you have millions of dollars, we're not going to let you go. But if you're poor, or if you're reasonable means, or we don't actually care how much money you have or don't have, if you're not dangerous, we're going to let you go, unless we think you're going to flee. And when Washington, D.C. implemented this, it turns out that an overwhelming majority of people come back for the hearing. Kentucky, a red state, now is doing this. And in both jurisdictions, the reports I read, they actually have less pretrial crime and a safer system, because it also forces judges to actually do a risk assessment, a real one, instead of relying on the crutch of money, right? Right now, they can sort of have a sliding scale where they'll go, I think this person's sort of dangerous, but I'm going to have this whopping bail amount and let them go. And to me, a system where you link money to both freedom as well as dangerousness is not only unfair, it's irrational, and it's not good for society. So that's the first reason that I'm interested in reforming this. But the second is it's just fundamentally anti-American, right? We are basically criminalizing the poor. And in some jurisdictions, like Missouri, they've got local jurisdictions where even if you were to post bail and you come back for a hearing, you don't get your money back. It's just a straight payment to get out of jail. I don't even understand how that is constitutional. But essentially what we said in places like that is we're going to make you pay some amount so you can leave even though you have not been convicted of a single thing. And to me, that violates the Constitution, violates our fundamental notion of innocent until proven guilty. And then the sort of last thing what you think about in terms of bail reform is other countries have in fact banned having money in bail. The U.S. and the Philippines are actually the 2 countries that now have the largest bail bonds industry. After we introduced this bill, Dog the Bounty Hunter and his wife came out to lobby against it. And if you sort of look at what's happening, right, how many super PACs do you know that are out there to help poor people who can't post bail? And how many lobbying firms exist to help poor people who can't pay enough money to get out of jail? And how many poor people actually can hire lobbyists to fix this issue? It's going to be zero. On the other end, you have this huge industry, right, is perpetuating a current status quo that is less safe and less efficient and less fair than the alternative system. And so hopefully we can get this changed. The bill, we introduced it. So frankly, in a presidential year, not much happens in Congress. But I'm very hopeful for next year. We have criminal justice reform where you've got Republicans and Democrats coming together on a whole variety of issues. To me, politics is sometimes like a circle, right? Sometimes you're so right, you're left, and vice versa. So you now have the NAACP and the Koch brothers on the same page on many of these issues. You have Republicans who are fiscally conservative, looking at the warehousing of people as simply a waste of money. You have libertarian Republicans who believe certain crimes you should not go to jail or prison for. And then you have Democrats who view it as a moral issue. Why are we criminalizing the poor? Why do we have this disproportionate number of Latinos and African Americans in jails and prisons? So I think it gets some real reform. And I introduced this bill because I want it as part of that larger criminal justice package that I believe will happen next year. And so look forward to working with all of you. And at the end of the day, if we could just raise awareness and get people to think about this, I think you'll get more and more people in the public to go, yeah, this system's not fair, we need to reform it. And by the way, this is being live streamed by UCLA. So whatever you say will be captured, just so you know. Thanks so much and look forward to being on the panel.